Adoro mayo, rompe mobayo, mondo iki, Yesu Jawa, mondo siweke, kaka owacho, iuru ira, ahero,
na waambiaji wa Kenya Lake Ranen, that was Ranen, mbarikiwe sana. Lakini hiyo conference iko na wanaume ya na walienda wapi? Watarudia hiyo wimbo, maana wamama walikuja na benzi ikiwa kwa mfuko. Watarudia hiyo wimbo wapi? Lake Victoria, na kila watu wajiandae. Kesho kila watu wataimba kwa lugha yao. Ema, unasikia hiyo maneno? Kila watu waunde wimbo kwa lugha yao. Ndio hiyo, wewe na Masanga. Ndio hiyo. Lake Victoria wapo? Haya. Na tuendelee kukumbusha wale wako nje waingie, tuanze. Alafu kuna leso, kuna mama analia leso yake ilienda. Kama ulipata leso, ama ndio hiyo, kama ulipata leso, tafadhali saidia mwenyewe. Sawa. Na wale walipata ile miwani, sijui kama wenyewe walipata. Natumainia kila watu wamepata kile ambacho walikuwa wamepoteza. Kama hujapata bado, tupate hiyo report, na kama uko na kitu sio yako hakikisha umepeana ili mwenyewe atafutwe. Asante.
Onde lutomo telona anadinike chagene kaparo kaka nothona revenu chwe kalwani Yesu notena pileka Yesu notena yoduto eneose mageno chu
Bera daima. Mngesemaje kwa kwaya nzuri namna hivyo? Simameni basi tuombe. Tunaomba. Tunakuja miguuni pako Mungu Baba, adhuhuri ya leo, jina lako litukuzwe. Asanti kwa baraka zako nyingi na wema wako mwingi, hatuwezi Mungu tukauhesabu. Jina lako lisifiwe milele na milele. Maana ni kupitia upendo wako na neema zako Mungu tuko vile tulivyo. Tunajivunia Mungu kuwa wainjilisti, na Mungu umekuwa mwema, umetuza kila mmoja wetu pamoja na nyumba zetu na familia zetu. Tunaomba Kristo inuliwe hapa duniani kama vile unainuliwa mbinguni. Mungu tubariki, utupe muda mzuri wakati ule tumesalia kukaa hapa. Tunaomba Mungu uwe nasi, hata kiongozi yule atatuongelesha. Tunaomba Mungu umtumie. Mapenzi yako yatendeke, na ni katika jina Yesu Kristo tunaomba na kuamini. Amen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Nachukua nafasi hii kuwakaribisha tena kwa muda mwingine ili tuweze kuendeleza masomo yetu, na ninayezungumza ni Nancy Rob kutoka SRVF, na pamoja nami katika huduma ya masaa haya ni Publishing Director kutoka CRVC, na mkaribisha yaweze kutusalimia. Mtumishi ambaye ataendeleza kipindi is none other than Pastor Steve Apola. Karibu sana. Karibu sana.
Habari za mchana. Amjambo. Si mumechoka lakini? Semeni ukweli. Tuongeze siku tuone. Sawa sawa. Wacha nikwambie siri ya kuacha watu na tamaa. Ukitaka kuacha watu na tamaa, achia kile unachokifanya wakati ambapo bado wanasikia hamu. Ukiendelea mpaka hamu iishe, hawatakuwa na tamaa tena. Lakini ukiachia wakati wangali na tamaa, watataka kurudi tena. Kwa hivyo tutafanya hivyo. Sasa mchana huu wa leo nataka niwaekee video moja ya mkurugenzi naibu wa idara ya mawasiliano ya GC. Anazungumzia juu ya kazi ya uinjilisti katika wakati huu. Kiini cha mada anayozungumzia hasa kikubwa ni ya kwamba siku hizi hatuuzi tu vitabu. Kuna wakati watu walikuwa wanasema wanauza tu vitabu. Hata unapomtangazia mtu juu ya kitabu namwambia nina kitabu kizuri hapa. Lakini siku hizi tunazungumzia nafikiria hii jambo nilizungumzia hapo nyuma juu ya relationship marketing. Yaani kufanya marketing kupitia kwa uhusiano na mtu. Na ndugu Sam Neves anaongea kwa lugha ya Kiingereza, anaongea kwa haraka kidogo, kwa hivyo mtasikiliza kwa makini. Atakapomaliza tutafanya summary kidogo. Lakini kile kitu anachokizungumzia ni ya kwamba unapomuuzia mtu kitabu, uhusiano wako na wake usiishie pale mnapobadilishana vitabu na fedha. Hapo ndipo mahali ambapo uhusiano unaanza, hauishi. Wengi wameuza vitabu na wakasahau hata ni nani alimuuzia vitabu. Hujui, wakati mwingine waweza kuta warudia ofisi fulani ama nyumba fulani, alafu mtu yakwambia nakukumbuka wewe, si ulipitia hapa wakati. Unasema kweli? Si ni wewe uliniuzia? Hata anakutolea kitabu anakuonyesha. Hiyo inamaanisha ya kwamba hapakuwa na uhusiano hapo. So mada nayozungumzia sahihi ni hiyo. Kwa hivyo tusikilize kwa makini, halafu tutaangalia hizo dondo baada ya hapo.
When I was 12 years old, my mom decided that it was time for me to learn about colporting. So she did the responsible thing of taking me with her. We spent 3 days. She said that colporting was about impacting people's lives, that people were struggling, they were suffering, and they needed Jesus. So we visited them from door to door as she taught me how to use the prospectus and turn it properly and present it to people. Now, that was her version of what colporting was. But from what I could tell, colporting seemed to be trying to sell books to people that didn't want to buy books with the money they didn't have to buy books. Well, after 3 days, she took me to a street and she said, Sam, Little Sam, as she calls me in Portuguese, I grew up in Brazil, Samuelzinho. Little Sam, it's now your turn. Go into the street and visit door to door, house to house, and then you can offer the books, and this is how you do it. And she taught me before. So I looked at her and I said, no, I'm not going to do this by myself. Mom, I'm 12 years old. I don't want to do this. Yes, you will do it. The mission is important. But Mom, I'm scared. And then she said this sentence that changed my life. She looked and said, The mission is more important than your fear. Here's the thing. I was more scared of her than I was of the people. So I went and I visited from door to door. She said, don't come home until you visited the last house. So I went every single door. And I sold some books too, which was absolutely exhilarating for a 12-year-old. Now, colporting has changed a lot since then. In fact, when colporting first started decades ago, it was basically taking books, knowledge, to people that really needed it and didn't have anywhere else to find it. As colporters went from farm to farm, from house to house, they were presenting books to people that really didn't have that much access to information or books. The health information that they found, the biblical information that they found, they couldn't find anywhere else. So the physical presence of the colporter from house to house was extremely important. But then the 21st century comes, and some things change fundamentally. Now people have access to as many books as they can find. They have access to books digitally. They have access to videos digitally. And when people have too much information, it is easy for some to think that the age of colporting is over. After all, when we used to sell books, now we're just giving them away. Well, this couldn't be further from the truth. Colporting is still about impacting people's lives. It is still about transforming their lives today as it was in the last century. Now today, the problem isn't the lack of information, is it? The problem now is the opposite. We are bombarded with information. There is too much information. And in this case, the job of the colporter, the calling of the colporter, is not to just go into a neighborhood and leave, but rather to build long-term relationships with people. To position yourself in their minds as the person who will help them holistically with all the health elements, physical health, spiritual health, in their relationships, mental health, all of it. If they're struggling in any area, they can contact the colporter. And this is going to prove very difficult for some. There are some colporters in the past that just like going in, selling, and never seeing people again. If you don't want to have long-term relationships with people, then do something else with your life, because colporting isn't what you're called to do. In the 21st century especially, you're the one leading the relationship. What does that mean? It means that once somebody tells you that their friend may be interested, and you first contact them and you present things to them, whether they buy or not from you, the relationship isn't over. Contact them on WhatsApp the following month. How are things going? You told me that you were struggling with your teenage daughter. Are things better now? Here is a video that may be able to help, and you send the video. And you're constantly presenting great content, great helpful content to them. You are bringing value to their lives. A colporter in the 21st century is the one who is constantly bringing value to people's lives, especially when it comes to physical health and mental health and spiritual health and relationships, connecting with Jesus, helping them understand the Bible, or just how to get rid of a fever. It doesn't matter what you are selling. You need to care for the people that you are selling to. But Pastor Sam, you may ask, you just mentioned somebody that did not buy anything. Why would I contact them a month later? Because you care. The most important aspect of being a colporter in the 21st century is caring for people. Actually putting a value on their success being your own success. If their relationships are healthy, you're successful. If they are healthy in their bodies, you're successful. If they meet Jesus and they know how much Jesus loves them, you're successful. Their success is your success. But in order for you to feel what they're feeling, you need to pray for them. In the 21st century, if you are going to really take hold of the opportunities of colporting in the 21st century, then you need to feel their pain. Ask them how their life is, if you can pray for them in any way. Oh, but they don't know that I'm a Christian, and so on. The other thing about the 21st century is that you need to be transparent. People need to know what you stand for and what you believe. If you're trying to be a secular colporter, pretending that all you know about is health and you have nothing to do with spirituality, whenever you introduce spirituality or they find out that there is spirituality in the health book that you sold, they will no longer trust you. We cannot bait and switch anymore in the 21st century. You need to be transparent with people. And people are willing to listen to you if you don't try to trick them. So as you present whatever it is that you're selling, add value to their lives, whether they buy from you or not, and pray for them. Prayer is incredibly important. So before you send them a WhatsApp message or a Facebook Messenger message or even on Instagram, however you communicate with them, just pray for them deeply. Pray for them as if you could feel their pain. Intercede with God for them. And then by the time you call them, it will mean something different. By the time you contact them again, by the time you send a new video, by the time you ask how they are, you will feel differently with them. And they know the difference between those that care and those that don't. The point is that you will position yourself in their minds as the one that they should go to when they have questions about something. Now, my mother is a colporteur. She has been for almost 30 years. And over the last few years, she's changed from books to magazines. She now sells children's subscription magazine subscriptions. And what she's realized is that as she goes from school to school, from family to family, from churches to churches, evangelical churches, Pentecostal churches, Catholic churches, wherever she goes and she presents about education, she becomes the reference in those parents' lives about education. And whether she sells the book or not, she gives her contact details and says, if you ever have any questions about education, contact me. And all the time people are contacting her asking, I've had a problem with my daughter, I don't know what to do. Or I'm leaving my husband, I don't know what to do. And then she can speak to them, she can pray for them, and she can bring hope and healing to them at that moment when they need it. And then guess what? When she comes and says there is a new resource that you need to have in your life, and she presents either a book, sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's another magazine subscription, people buy it. They buy it because they know that she cares, and the reason why she's selling it is because the content will change their lives. There is too much information out there. There is so much information that having a reference, having somebody that people can go to that will filter what is good and what is bad becomes very, very important. And that's the calling that God has for you, to be that person. To be the person that will make sense of the world for the people that you are, for your clients. And we call them clients because they're buying something from you. It's an appropriate word. They are your customers. But you are not working for a corporation that is just trying to push books or magazines or whatever else in your field. You are an ambassador of the King of the universe. And God, every day of their lives, He wants to be part of their lives. And you're the one who gets to contact them constantly. You see, a church member has some friends, but it's difficult to bring about spirituality in that context. And then you have pastors who are very dedicated to the keeping up of the administration of their churches and preaching and visiting. There is no one else in the Adventist church that can do what a colporteur does. Don't think for a second that colporting is dead in the 21st century because people no longer buy books. Listen, the point was never the books. The point was impacting people. It has always been. And now you have these little devices right here. And these little devices are the very thing that enables you, that gives you the tools to have a profound impact in people's lives. Today, next month, the following month, the following month. Every month, each of your customers need to hear from you. And you need to be interested in their lives. It's our time. Look here. It's our time. Colporting is more relevant now than it has ever been. And you can do it from anywhere you are in the world. Here's the other thing. There are some shifts that will have to happen to colporting when it comes to geography. Because people can offer these relationships, these life-changing relationships, to people that are living very far from them or near them. So we're all trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this best. But your role is to care for people so that you can have an impact in their lives long term. And when they have questions, they'll come to you. Oh, Pastor Sam, but I really don't want people annoying me all the time. I just want to sell the book and be done with it. Well, then there's very little room for you in the 21st century colporting. but there's very little room for you anywhere. Because in the 21st century, companies need to care. And companies that don't care about their customers, they'll be very short-lived. A few months ago, I bought a light strip for my garden. It was an LED light strip that talks to Alexa. It was only $15, but it was amazing because you could tell, Alexa, turn the garden green, and then the light would turn green. And it would say, Alexa, turn the garden red, and it would turn red. And within a week, it stopped working. And I thought, well, it's $15. What am I going to do? Let me try and send it back. And I'm debating whether to send it back or not. It's still under warranty. What do I do? And then I get this thing in the post. And it's a picture of the 16 people in the team of the company who sold me those lights. And it said, we are delighted that you bought one of our products. And we hope it's been great for you. If you ever need anything, contact us. I didn't ask for that correspondence. And it was only $15. Well, guess what? I am a loyal customer now because I wrote back to them and said, it stopped working, but I love the card that you sent. Within 15 minutes, they wrote back. Just take a video of what's not working, and if we can't fix it from here, we'll send you another one. Do you think that when I'm going to buy anything to do with lights, I'm going to any other company? No. Why? Because in my mind, lights belong to this company. They occupy that position in my mind. And this is sales in the 21st century. And colporting is no different. So the calling to you is to care for your customers like Jesus does. Well, guess what? That was the calling in the 20th century too. Nothing changed in that regard. Jesus wants to impact their lives. In the past, the book was the most important thing. Today, well, today it's you and how you will speak life into their life constantly. This month and next month and the following month and the following month. Well, when do I stop, Pastor Sam? When Jesus comes. That's when you stop. Whether they buy from you or not, because when they realize that you care for them more than you care for their money, they're going to start buying from you more than you can imagine. And you need to sell. I have been a colporter for 8 holidays. I would call it a vacation, but it really wasn't because it's hard work. You need to sell, otherwise you don't eat. You need to sell, otherwise you cannot sustain yourself. There is nothing dirty about selling. There is nothing wrong with selling. It is amazing when people are willing to part with their money for a resource that you are bringing to them because it will be helpful to them. There is nothing wrong with measuring how many sales you had. Every day when I used to colport, I used to leave the house without any money at all whatsoever. And if I didn't sell anything, even cash, then I wouldn't eat. And as you can see, I love eating. So that was a great motivation. Whatever motivates you, you need to remember that the impact and the health of your customers is more important than their money. And when they see this from month to month, every time you call them, every time you have a new book or a new magazine subscription or whatever else you're selling, they will pay attention to it. And they will want to buy it because it comes from you. And you care deeply about them. In the 21st century, the calling to you is to care. The same as the last century. And I hope and pray that this movement of colporters will only increase until the second coming of Jesus, when we will all be taken up to heaven to be with Jesus, and we will meet everyone that we've ever sold anything to that is there.
It's our time.
It's our time.
It is our time.
Aya, mumeonaje hiyo mazungumzo? Ha? Amesema nini? Sawa, licha ya it's our time. Ni nini ambaye amesema, anasema colporting, yani uinjilisti leo ni tofauti katika karne hii. Kwa nini? Nini tofauti? Yes.
kwa sababu ya tofauti ya wakati, tulikuwa tukipeleka vitabu hodi, na unaweka kitabu hata uelezi kenye iko ndani, bora tu aone kitabu na picha yake. Ukishauza umeenda, hamtaonana tena, ni kama hit and run. But ametuelezea kwamba wakati huu ni vyema create a good relationship, create urafiki nao, ili ukishauzia kitabu hata akiwa na shida uko pamoja naye, na hivyo hivyo ukiwa into his life ataona Yesu ndani yako, kuliko kama ule mteja wa kawaida ukishauzana mnawachania hapo. That's one of the points nilisikia.
Asante. Na katika mazungumzo, nimeona mkono wangu. Katika mazungumzo hapa kuna mmoja wetu alisema kuna kitu kama hicho anafanya. Sijui kama mwakumbuka. Kuna feedback sana. Patie yule dada pale nyuma.
I have captured this important point, that in those days, the colporting people who take books to various people who really had desire to have the books because they were not there. But in this century, there's a lot of information, and therefore the information is flooded. You need to help people filter out what they really need by impacting their lives. As you do that, they will trust you, and it will be easier for them to buy the books you have because of that trust. Thank you.
Yes. Siku hizi kama wakati mwingine waweza peleka kitabu mahali alafu waambiwe hiyo information niko nayo wapi? Kwa simu, ninaenda kwa Google, inanisaidia. Kwa hivyo kama wewe ni mtu ambaye hujajenga uhusiano na huyo mtu, hata kuamini, trust is low. Lakini akiona ya kwamba mumefanya pamoja, amekujua hapo nyuma, kile ambacho unamueleza na ile information ambayo wewe unampatia, anaweza kukuamini because you have a relationship. Na hiyo relationship hata kwa makampuni pia utaona wanafanya hivyo. Amezungumzia kampuni moja ya taa. Lakini siku hizi sio kampuni ya taa peke yake. Kuna hata kampuni za ndege. Kama ukipanda ndege mara moja, wanauliza information yako, wanakuambia register kwa kitu wanaita loyalty program, na katika hiyo loyalty program wanakupatia points jinsi unavyozidi kusafiri pamoja nao, wanakupatia points. Alafu wanasema wewe ni loyal customer. Kwa hivyo siku moja ukienda kusafiri watakupatia kiti kizuri kwa sababu wewe ni loyal customer. Na wanajenga uhusiano na wewe, wanakutumia barua pepe, wanaweza kukuambia kuna offer hii, tungependa tukupunguzie bei ili usafiri. Wanafanya vitu kama hivyo, na hiyo ni njia ya kujenga uhusiano na mteja. Dada Orpa alikuwa hapa asubuhi. Yumo humu ndani. Unajua sasa nimekumbuka sura yako. Nilikufanyia interview tulipokutana pale Eldoret, si ndio? Si tulikutana Eldoret 2019? Nimekumbuka sasa. I was trying to remember. Ulizungumzia juu ya makundi ambayo uko nayo katika WhatsApp na jinsi unavyozidi kuwatumia ujumbe kila wakati. Hiyo ni njia ya kujenga uhusiano na wateja wako. Unaweza kuwa si devotion peke yake unawatumia. Inaweza kuwa labda uligundua information nzuri, kama vile mama alisema jinsi ambavyo sukuma wiki ni dawa. Nasema wakati msimu huu wa corona inaonekana wale wanaotumia supu ama mchuzi ama juice ya sukuma wiki wanasaidika kwa njia fulani. Kwa hivyo unapomtumia ujumbe kama huo, anasema anaweza jaribu. So unaonyesha ya kwamba unajali masilahi ya yule mtu, sio pesa zake tu unazozitaka, lakini ni yeye mwenyewe uko na interest katika maisha yake. Nafikiri niliona mikono miwili. Nataka nimalizie hapa. Kama kuna mtu ana mkono, inua sasa, la sivyo unyamaze kimya hadi Kulikuwa na mikono mingapi? 1, 2, kulikuwa na mkono pale. Haya, ama nilikuwa ni wewe. 3, alafu 4, 5, alafu tutamalizia na wewe 6. Sawa? Haya, twende.
Okay, I've heard him talk about caring for the customer, which Pastor has already talked about. How do we care for the customer? By frequently finding out how they're doing. If there is something new you want to inform them, or just kuwajulia hali. Me, sometimes I even share food with my customers. Not that they lack, but just as a way of friendship. Like there's a lady, a CEO somewhere, very important person in a government office. But sometimes I go there with a packet of fruits. Hata saa ingine pika njugu, karanga, naenda, we share, you know. And at the end of the day, unapata, hata kama uko na kalenda, atachukua tu bila wasiwasi. Kama uko na kitabu kubwa, atachukua tu bila wasiwasi. And through that rapport, I think the Friday before we came for the institute, I went to the office on a Thursday, and then now they were organizing for an end-year party for the company, and they asked me if I could get for them a speaker to do with mind wellness. And then I told them, but here I am, I'm also a chaplain by profession. So they gave me the opportunity, and guess what happened? I went and spoke to people who have even studied PhD, including herself, seated listening to me very keenly. And at the end of it all, they gave me a token. I will not tell you how much, but it is more than what we are getting here today per night. I don't know how much we are given.
Asante.
And then also, he talked about you have to work for you to eat. Now, at the same time, he was still contradicting himself that you don't have to sell. So, kazi ya uinjilisti, when we were being ushered in, we were being told, ukiingia kwa kazi ya uinjilisti kama unatafuta pesa ama fedha, hautafaulu. Na tena, on the other side of it, unaambiwa lazima ufanye kazi kwa bidii, lazima ufaulu. So, hizi zote ziko pamoja. We have to sell and succeed by selling, and we also have to get the souls of the customers, but by not just looking for the money, because if we go to get money from customers, then we won't succeed. Thank you.
Asante sana. Nitaomba tafadhali tufanye comment zetu fupi, kwa sababu tuko watu 7. Kama kila mmoja atachukua dakika 3, itakuwa dakika 21 yote. Kwa hivyo kila mmoja dakika moja. Pastor Mburu.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate the presentation. I noted 3 points. 1, he talked about information is so much in the world. So we must remember that the people we are meeting have so much information. The only thing we need to do is to tell them why our information is more important than theirs. 2, talked about money. Said, if you don't sell, you don't eat. The reality of life is a literature evangelist lives on selling. So we have to keep selling and selling and selling. As we sell, we reach people for Christ. I think that's very important for us to notice those 2 points. Thank you.
Asante sana. Number 3, yes.
Yes, thank you. The point that I got there is that their success is our success. This means that when you sell a book to a customer and you find that she or he is interested, he has get some information from that book. So when you also follow that, you visit them frequently, and when it's time for prayer, you also give them room to give you the prayer request, so that when you touch their hearts, when there is a family member who is sick, or their school fees, their financial crisis, or something like that, when you touch them, you just mention those prayers. Then at the end of it, they get the fulfillment from God. Then they'll appreciate, and their success will be your success. Another thing is that when you are a profession in any field, you use that professions to benefit your customers. Maybe you are for an example, I'm a counselor by profession, and whenever I go, I just invited to in our school, I just give those that services free of charge. Then after that, they will be interested to buy my books. Be blessed.
Asante sana. Their success is your success. Yani you want your client to succeed. And every time they succeed in whatever it is in their life, no matter how little it is, that is your joy. Hiyo ndio furaha yako, kuona ya kwamba anaishi na afya. Furaha yako ni ya kumwona anafaulu kimaisha. Furaha yako ni kuona watoto wake wanafaulu. Wakati mwingine unaweza hata ukamfatizia huyo client kuanzia watoto wake wanazaliwa hadi wanamaliza chuo kikuu. Unakuwa wewe ni kama familia yao. Asante. Next, yes.
Asante sana. Yangu ni kama vile amesema, lakini nataka niweze naona ni muhimu sana tuweze kusimama na wale ambao tunawaendea kuwapelekea ujumbe. Nimeona ameweza kusema ni vizuri kweli tuweze kusimama nao kwa wakati magumu, hata wakati wakiwa wagonjwa tuweze kusimama nao, ama wakati wanapopitia changamoto tuweze kusimama nao kupitia kwa maombi. Nakumbuka kuna wakati nimepeleka calendars na nilipeleka kwa shule, na principal akanipatia nafasi, akaniomba ya kwamba wakati huo kulikuwa na changamoto ya corona. Akaniomba ya kwamba niweze kuwakumbuka katika maombi, kwa sababu wakati huo ulikuwa ni wakati mgumu, na waliamua kupitia kwa hiyo, kupitia kuwatembelea siku hiyo, wakaamua kuchukua kalenda 28 kwa sababu walikuwa wanataka kila darasa liweze kuwa na kalenda. Wanapokuwa wanaenda darasani kila asubuhi, wapate nakala yao na wapate kufanya devotion kila asubuhi. Na hiyo nami pia hakika ilinifurahisha. Asante.
Asante sana. Huyo alikuwa ni namba ngapi? 4. Namba 5 alikuwa ni wewe mama. Ni pale. Tuanzie pale alafu tunamalizia. Yes.
Asante kwa nafasi hii. Ninaomba kuuliza swali kuhusu online marketing. Wakati ambapo labda umeweka advertisement ama umeelezea vitabu pale kwa Facebook ama hizo mitandao zingine, are there rules ambazo zitakusaidia usiriski who pays first, ama nani unapeana kwanza ama unalipwa kwanza? Maybe kama kuna sheria ambazo zinaongoza rules for the online marketing.